And welcome.
Welcome, friends. How y'all doing today?
Well, I'm doing pretty good.
I'm doing good, too.
All right, well, what's up with everybody? I see a lot of clicks.
Hey.
Click,
heal.
Heal.
You may notice there is a new emote.
That's right, made by Dechart Lester, one of our glorious lieutenants of illustrious stature. Appreciate you all being here, and today's subject is voice acting.
Yes.
Whoa.
Ooh. So this is Curiosity Chill, where we pick a subject to study together, and all of you have chosen voice acting.
Absolutely. My name is Connor. I'm the Android sent by Cyberlife. You know what it is. We appreciate you being here, and we have a little poll. We like polls on this stream.
We love polls.
Where would y'all like to begin? We have an option. The history of voice acting. If that's your style, type a number 1 into the chat. And if you want to ask us anything about voice acting, type a 2 into the chat.
We can also do both. You know, it doesn't have to be one or the other, but where would you like to start?
Yeah, we do a poll at the end of each of our streams to decide what we will study on the next Curiosity Chill, and you all chose voice acting last time, and we're going to give it a go. And we can definitely do both. And appreciate you, Ninas. Thank you for being here with your Prime. Welcome to our channel. And Singer TMN, welcome back for 11 months, saying so happy to be here with you all. So thank you all for being here. And Alyssa Alcyone,
Alyssa Celine?
Ooh, Alyssa Celine. Thank you for being here for 33 months.
Whoa, 33.
And Jurek6 is back for 8 months. Okay, so it looks like just a little bit more. We'll start with some AMA stuff, and then we'll get into the...
AMA?
Ask me anything within reason that has to do with voice acting.
All right.
How about that?
Hey, Moogie Blue, merci beaucoup for 18 months.
Yo, welcome back. Pan is a pan. And thank you for being here, Head Pigeons, for 43 months. I see a lot of hype on the hype train. Thank you, friends, for the good support. We appreciate you subscribing to our channel and supporting us streaming 4 times a week. Yep. And a special heads up that today there will be a bonus stream of Horizon Zero Dawn at 2 p.m. or 4 hours in the future. So if you would like to join us, do it. And if you don't want to, don't do it. But turning your notifications on is a great way to find out when we are live at irregularly scheduled times.
Jalia T472, welcome back for 13 months. And Head Pigeons, 43 months?
Appreciate you.
Oh my gosh.
Happy winter solstice, everyone. It's true. It's the winter solstice. This is the shortest day of the year. If you want some, depending on the hemisphere you're in, but if you want some sunlight and you're in the southern hemisphere, go get it, because it's about to be a problem.
All right, friends. So if you would like to ask us a question about voiceover, please tag us with @DechartGames, and we are happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, lay them on us, team.
Yes.
Our moderators are going to pull some of those questions into the Q&A chat if we miss them, but we're going to try to just grab them mostly out of the chat here with everybody. And yes, it means that the days are going to start getting longer after today. We're going to start to see a little more sunlight.
Chappers asks, do we have any... how did you get into voice acting, and do we have any upcoming projects?
Oh, Chappers, that's a nice question. Appreciate you being here. Chappers with a Z, 1990. I guess we should each answer the question of how we got into voice acting.
Yeah.
I think I'd be remiss to exclude the fact that in my high school days, I did think it was a lot of good fun to call into QVC and pretend to be an old woman, ordering lots and lots and lots of items and see if I could get myself on television. That was my big plan, team, and I think those prank phone calls are the beginning of what eventually became my interest in voice acting. I was always into acting, as community theater kind of acting and some high school plays and stuff. So definitely, I think a lot of voice actors get into it from, theater or from, film and television acting and training. And then voiceover was always more interesting to me because I could play characters that didn't necessarily look like me or, not even mammals, you can play a hat, you could play a rock, you could play a dragon, you could play any kind of thing in your voice. So I think for me, the bit was about how different of a character can I be with just my voice. And so that's kind of what piqued my interest into it. And then I started doing more official voice acting during college when many of my student friends who were in the film program had what's called a sight and sound project, and they had their digital frame and sequence projects where they would do these different assignments that would strip down what is in a movie, and they'd be like, all right, this entire thing needs to be like basically a radio drama, like a short film, but only with audio, and they were responsible for mixing all the sounds and the Foley and the effects and things. And so ultimately, being a help to other friends who are working on their student, early student film projects, which were just sound-based, was my first experience doing voiceover. What about you, sweet wife?
I think my first experience doing voiceover was for an animation where my sister and I were cast as twins for somebody's pilot presentation, which means they're trying to get a project that they've made off the ground. And it's very much like acting regularly, with a scene partner and being either on set or being in the theater. But the biggest difference is they're only recording your voice. So you're still, putting in all of the effort that you would if someone was seeing your whole body. But all they're actually recording is your voice. So I see a lot of people asking, what is the biggest difference? And I would say that for me, the biggest difference is a lot of the time when I've done voiceover, I have not had a scene partner to work with. Which definitely presents a bunch of different kinds of challenges because you're having to imagine what your scene partner is saying, how they're responding to you, where you are in space. So I've had to rely very, very heavily on imagination and on the work that I've done previously coming into the space to know where I am, how I feel about the space, who I'm talking to, and how I feel about them, and how they feel about what I'm saying to them.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, because when it comes to acting, it's said that acting is listening and acting is reacting. So much of what you're doing as an actor is putting yourself in a mindset and in the place of the story, the given circumstances, and then responding truthfully under those imaginary circumstances to your scene partner. But in voiceover, a lot of the time, and even in performance capture working on video games, sometimes you don't have the scene partner with you. So in a way, you're both creating what you're listening to in your mind and then reacting and responding to something that you're listening to that actually isn't being said or done or couldn't really be heard. You have to basically be playing a bit of both sides of the role in your mind so that you have some trajectory or some path to go. And if you're lucky, you've got a booth director there who's giving you a lot of that kind of input. Sometimes they're able to play playback for you and say, hey, 8 months ago when we recorded the lead, here's all their dialogue, so we're going to hit you with the playback on that. So you're basically listening to, reacting organically, and responding to something that's been in a can for 6 months instead of to the other person directly across from you. We got a bunch of great questions coming in here. Our mods have pulled a bunch of questions for us into our Q&A channel, so we're going to go from there. But thank you. If you want to keep adding questions, they will continue to pull them.
Yes, and to answer the second part of that question, we do have some really exciting projects that are going to be coming out either in the next year, I think in the next year, yeah.
There are definitely ones that are coming out in the next year. One thing, this is not unique to voice acting, but a lot of times actors are not able to share any of the information about a project that we're working on until the game is released. So you guys are never going to hear anything from me for the very first time ever. The game developers and the people that publish the games have all the rights and exclusivity to tell you about what they're working on. So voice actors or actors in projects are generally only able to tie ourselves to the project or announce our involvement in the project at a certain point in the release schedule of the game. And most of the time, that's after the game already came out. So Amelia and I had, for instance, been talking and thinking about hoping to work on Cyberpunk 2077 for literal years before the game came out, and then the game came out, and we were like, are we even allowed to acknowledge it now? At the very last second.
Left for Smurfs, thank you so much for the gift sub group hug.
Thank you for being here, Left for Smurfs. Appreciate you. And that girl Heidi, thank you for the gift subs as well. Thank you. But yes, we do have a one game in particular that we are very confident is coming out next year. I can't say anything more specifically about that. And happy to share that we're both working on other projects that we can't tell you anything about. But we would love to. You will be the ones to know as soon as we're able to tell you. You guys are an incredible support to us. And the fact that you're excited for more games that we're working on is really, really great. Let's get to it. Okay, we got... how about this? How do you know if your voice is good enough for voice acting? Can everyone do it? Says It's Coral. I don't think it has to do with it being good enough.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't think it has to do with your voice quality too specifically, but really more about the acting. I think that one thing that's a common misconception about voice acting is, no, I don't want to be an actor. I want to be a voice actor. And the reality is, like, voice acting is acting, and performance capture is acting. So if you have no interest in acting, then you probably actually have no interest in doing voiceover. But the reality is there's a lot of times people have an interesting, unique quality to their voice. It might spawn a lot of people around them being like, oh, you should totally be in radio with a voice like that. But the point is, like, what the voice is connected to, the soul of the character and the interpretation of the script and the service of the story that you're trying to, communicate. That's all the stuff that really makes it, we're going to work with this person, or this person is more appropriate for the role. Your voice has something to do with it. And I do think that, like, changing, having different voices or different, range that you feel comfortable with performing would definitely make it more likely that you could work on different projects. But it's not a quiz of like, oh, this guy can do 102 voices and this lady can only do 15 voices. We got to hire the guy who can do a bunch of silly voices. It's definitely not a silly voice contest.
No. I would say if you're interested in voice acting, then take an acting class. Get in there, find, learn about what it is to be an actor and to break down a scene and to learn about what your objective is and what your actions are, how you're going to go about getting your objective, because it all comes from the same place. It starts from what do you want and how are you going to get it.
I see Just an Average Bot asking a question that's very similar to a lot of questions you are all asking about logistics and kind of like the business side of this. We're happy to talk about it a little bit, but we mostly want to focus on the creative aspect of this, because the reality is the professional side of things is always changing and evolving, and no one I know has the exact same series of experience. There is no blueprint for acting. There's no way I can tell you do this and then do this and then guaranteed 5 years later you'll be there. It's not like going to school. It's not like working in a traditional job structure, because the reality is all of these jobs are independent of each other and nobody owes you anything for the fact that you've auditioned for 100 other projects and didn't book it and you auditioned for their project. They don't go, oh, well, they're 100 auditions in, we ought to give them this one. Everyone is a clean slate and everyone is a new opportunity to, get involved and be the right person for the project. So I can't get too much into casting and that. But the question about do you get signed on just like an actor for a screen project would, yes, usually you have duration, a number of sessions, or a size of the character. And a lot of times you don't even know all of the sessions that are going to happen. So I went and recorded some stuff for Detroit, and then I knew there was more. I didn't know how much more. I didn't know when more. But eventually I got another set of scripts and another session date, and then you go back and record more. So I would say the biggest difference between film and television versus voiceover is that, in my experience, being in voiceover or working in performance capture has left me in the dark for a lot longer, and trying to piece together what's going on in the story, whereas the opposite side of the spectrum would be theater, where everybody gets all of the information all of the time, and you have a read-through with the whole cast, and you're rehearsing it, and you're watching other people rehearse it, and you're all very involved in seeing a lot of what's happening in the story. Voiceover and voice acting performance capture definitely feels more kind of fragmented and bring in the actors towards the end of the project and get them recorded and then move along, because there's just so many other, in games particularly, there's a much longer production timeline that happens before the actors get involved when you're making a game, perhaps than when you're on set.
Yes.
You definitely need the actors with you on the first day of filming, otherwise what are you filming? Whereas a video game, they could work on it for years before they need to get the actors involved.
Yes.
So Amelia, Tendy's Yes wants to know, what was your favorite character to voice act, and did you have any struggles working on that character?
Ooh. Well, I honestly cannot talk about the character that was my favorite because it has not been announced yet. But I will talk about the struggles. I definitely think that the biggest challenge that I've faced doing voiceover specifically for video games is not having a scene partner, and sometimes not even having the full scene. I don't even know who I'm talking to or what they're saying to me. So all I have is my lines, and so I've had to create entire worlds in my mind about who I'm talking to and why. And then I get into the booth and the director's like, "Oh, no. This is this is what you're doing, and this is where you are, and this is who you're talking to." So for me, it's been about really just trusting my gut and knowing that I booked the role for a reason, and to just make a choice and jump. And if the director likes what I'm doing, he'll continue to move me in the right direction, but not be too precious about it and not be too set in how it has to be, because I've found that I've needed to be very, very flexible with my choices, because I only know a very small portion about what's happening in the bigger story. So I have to go in making a strong choice, but then be ready to like completely throw it out the window and pull in something totally new.
I think that's a good distinction between being on camera versus being, doing something a little bit more amorphous, like working in voiceover, in that you're... you do have to be flexible because anything could change at any given time. You know, a lot of things in games are being changed on the fly and as the game is developed, and so they may need to re-record things, and they can in a way that would just not be practical to do for a television show, for instance. And Amelia's point about making a bold choice and going with it, I think serves you a lot in voiceover. I mean, certainly you want to make bold choices in all of your acting so that you're putting your, creative mark on it. Nobody wants to watch you go do the average thing that everybody would do by default. The more fun stuff is what comes from the individual performer. And I think that when you're working with your voice, or when less of you is seen, then you can make stronger choices with your voice that might help tell the story. But as long as your choices are in service of the story and the given circumstances and what the relationships between these characters are, that's going to get you to the point where people are feeling like they're listening to a living human or a living character speak, rather than just reading lines to them.
Yeah, and on tips to protect your voice.
Yeah, this is from Obachunga.
I would say definitely doing vocal warm-ups and honey, and if you're doing sequences where you need to be exerting a lot of effort, like screaming a lot, try and use your diaphragm so that you're not pushing from your throat like this. Instead, you're bringing it from your base, your core, so that you're trying not to constrict your throat as you're yelling or as you're speaking at a high tension level, but learning how to use your diaphragm and keeping your throat relaxed. Because it definitely is very tiring, because in my experience of voiceover, it's just you. So it's you for that whole session, which is usually about 2 to 4 hours, and you're just on the whole time. So learning how to protect your voice and take care of it so that you don't leave feeling like, oh my God, I've just aged 500 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pacing yourself during those vocally stressful sessions is really important, and to stay hydrated and all these things. But also it's important to think about, I think the thing where I get into danger of like losing my voice or overstressing myself is that I'm listening to myself speak and trying to manipulate the sound of, I have an audition for, let's say he's a super villain, right? And I've got this idea in my mind that he needs to sound a certain kind of way. And I'm doing this thing to my voice, but it's not really about reacting or responding to anything. It's just me putting on a voice, and that seems to be when I like tear myself up or get really exhausted vocally. But if you're thinking about it and it's driven from the character and who you're talking to, and you make it active in the scene, then it's very different than if I'm just yelling. I'm not going to yell because you guys are listening with headphones potentially, but like, and I don't have a mixer, but like, if I'm yelling like, get down, and I have this idea in my head that it needs to sound like a soldier yelling, get down, versus if I'm actually vocally talking to an imaginary scene partner and telling them to get down, it has more to do with the intensity and the direction and the specificity of what I'm saying, and less to do with this idea of like, I have to yell because there's grenades. I don't know if that makes any sense to non-actors, but that's my best recommendation for taking care of your voice, is using your voice like the character uses their voice, not like someone who's creating a bunch of sounds.
Yeah. Also, Bloody Cheyenne, thank you so much for the gift sub group hug.
Thank you, Bloody Cheyenne. Appreciate that.
And also, welcome back for 27 months.
Thank you. For anyone who's just joining, we're doing our Curiosity Chill on voice acting today. We got a little bit of information about the history of voice acting, and moreover, really like what is the technical very beginning of voice acting. We'll check that out at the end of the stream, and right now we're going through some of your questions that the mods have pulled. And this one is from Electric Sheep, who's asking, do you direct yourself on lines, or do you have a director on the call to direct you? Do you have a director in the room with you? How is that?
It depends. For auditions, you direct yourself. So that is definitely a challenge, because you're making the choice of what is the different circumstances for each scene, for each line. Sometimes you don't even have a full scene. So you're the ones making the choices to differentiate each of the different sections of your audition sides. But when you've booked a job, you are always working with a booth director, somebody who is there to guide you through and let you know what they're looking for. Sometimes the person is there with you. I've also had experiences where the director is just in headphones, and I don't know where they are in the world, but they are talking to me through headphones.
Through Source Connect. Yeah, we've definitely been doing more and more projects, especially given the last year of good old pandemic times. But this question from Elvin Angel is a good one. On top of it, when you started auditioning from home, right? Because we used to go into either our agent's office or sometimes into the casting offices, where they would have booths and they direct you in person, or you have at least someone that you're recording with, versus recording everything from home. They ask, what is the biggest challenge you face recording from home, and what is the most useful equipment that you invested in? I will shout out to the fact that I do think that technology has been so widely democratized that really, if you have something that records video, you're good to go for a video self-tape. If you have something that records audio, you're good to go for an audio self-tape. Obviously, you can invest more and more money and get a higher and higher quality sound coming out of it, but I don't think it would be a great idea for someone who's never booked a voiceover gig to spend $5,000 on a recording setup and then have that hanging over their heads, because it's going to take you a while to earn those $5,000 back from voice acting. So I would say get used to it, get comfortable with it, with whatever's built into your phone or what's built into your computer could be a good way to start.
GarageBand or something.
I mean, we record our auditions with GarageBand built into our Mac computer. So software-wise, I mean, you really don't need much just to ingest the audio. We are on right now a mic that's called a Blue Yeti from a company called Blue Microphones. Disclaimer that they have gifted us this microphone, and it is a sponsored item that we give away as our prize on some streams. So stay tuned. Join a stream. You can win this Blue Yeti mic. This is what we use for streaming. It's nice because it has the ability to pick up Amelia and I both comfortably sitting side by side. We don't have to be right in front of it. We use a Blue Spark is the name of the microphone we use for our voiceover auditions. My best piece of equipment that we've invested in to answer that is what's called a Kaotica eyeball. It's Kaotica eyeball. I think they're actually running a bit of a discount right now. I'm not associated with them as a sponsor or anything, but that is a bubble, like a little eyeball shape thing. It looks like a little foam ball that goes over the top of your mic, like a pop filter in the front, and then it's high density foam around it. And what that does is it cuts down on the reverb or the bouncing audio that's going, or the bouncing sound waves that would go past your mic and then bounce back to your mic and give you a less than crisp recording quality. So my best recommendation would be to get yourself into a quiet space with a with something to absorb the bounce of the sound around you. So we've got some treatment up in our studio space That's a more recent development, but that foam is not to make it soundproof. It's not to stop outside sounds from coming in. It's so that when I snap or when I clap or when we speak, that the sound stops after you've heard it one time instead of bouncing off the wall and coming back so that you hear it again and again and again in little ways. So I would say the best piece of tech that we've got is definitely this chaotic eyeball that you could put on various different microphones depending on what you have. And that's like $200.
I also think that there is something really special about being able to record auditions from home because it gives you a sense of freedom and time that you wouldn't get if you were going into a casting office. And I would say for auditioning at home, if you're starting off and you're wanting to explore being a voice actor, to just play around. Like give yourself a bunch of time to just play with a scene, like find a scene and just do your character, whatever character you want to choose, just do their lines and play with it a bunch of different times and then listen back, because you'll learn a lot about what works and what differences you can hear in your voice and why something feels a little bit more intimate or why something feels more like combative. Like, what are you doing that makes the differences in your voice and how does it sound? And I would also say lay all the lines down, like do all of your work and then listen back afterwards. Don't record something, stop, listen back, judge it, and then do it again. Just put all of the work down, just go and play, and then afterwards go back to record, go back to listen, because you want to have some kind of separation between when you're doing your scene, when you're in character, and then when you're listening back and deciding what you like and what you don't like and what you want to improve, because it could be really difficult to unleash your creativity and unleash your inner child if you're constantly stopping to judge yourself.
Agreed. And I see Whack Tony here saying, so you guys are just saying pretend. Yes. Basically, acting is living truthfully under imaginary circumstances, which all of you are capable of doing because all of you play as a kid. And I think that playing video games is a great way to stay in a good play shape, so to speak, for video games, for acting, because it's a lot of having an idea and then just running with it and go with it. So to piggyback off what Amelia just shared, I would say that getting used to your own sound and your own look and your own sort of instrument is really important, because I, for a very long time, did not like hearing recordings of myself. I didn't want to hear my own voice recorded. Other people would tell me like, oh, you have an interesting voice. That's kind of, even when I was like a little kid, people would tell me like, oh, your voice is very different. What's going on? And I was always kind of insecure about it. But then once you kind of bomb-proof yourself to hearing your own voice, then you can start to hear what other people hear when you make a choice, and you can start to listen to the sounds. I think one thing that I'm kind of skipping over in talking about acting as acting and wanting to get you thinking about like, what is the character's motivation, objective, what are the tactics and actions they're using, what is this person made of? Technically speaking, I think voice and speech is super important. And I know that my own voice and speech work has gotten sloppy over the last, year and a half of being around less people and speaking with, less attention to my voice. But your diction and the sounds that you're making, you will, whether you like it or not, be adding things to a character that you might actually be in control of, making more of a decision. If you are someone who speaks where you just sort of like all your S's are kind of sloshed together and you have a softer kind of palette with it, then that's going to say something to someone who only is listening for what the character says. And you might not be doing that intentionally, but you just might habitually have S's that go like this because you're used to wearing your retainer on time and the sound coming out of your mouth, influences the way someone interprets the character. So the more comfortable you get with the sound of your own voice and the more comfortable you get with your own voice and speech work, then the better kind of self-director you can be, because you can listen back and go, oh, wow, my Michigan nasally sounds are in there a lot. I can really hear the Midwest in there, and I'm not really so sure that benefits
Serves
the
the
character,
character.
for instance. There's a ton of good questions, though. We should keep it rolling.
Yeah, let's do it.
Amelia, tell me this. Ooh, okay, so good. So many good questions. How about accents from different parts of the world? Anita Fisher is curious how do you find it working with accents, or how do you feel about when they say use a not your natural speaking voice?
Well, I find that to do an accent, you want to feel confident in it, because if I'm second guessing, you can hear it in my voice. So I listen to a lot of YouTube videos. I will find, a specific accent and just listen to as many people speaking in that accent as possible and repeat what they're saying. So speak with them to try and bring it into my body as much as possible. But there's no shame in messing up. Just keep practicing and listening to other people and speaking with them and finding what are the biggest differences in the sounds that you say with your accent versus whatever accent that you're working on. What vowel sounds do they change? Do they put the emphasis on a different syllable? Like what are the differences between your accent and the accent that you're trying to portray?
Yeah. And there's also maybe like a spectrum of realism that people are looking for when they're casting, and it definitely has been the case that sometimes I get a script that says, please submit natural British speakers only, and they don't want me to do a British accent. They want someone who speaks with the British accent all the time to be the character. Then there's other times when they're looking for like, a heightened, stylized RP British accent to play like a comedy version of a king or something. And the reality is that they don't need it to be sort of lived in and naturalistic of an accent, but they're looking for more of a representational accent. So I think that's one thing that's changing a little bit more in voice acting as more and more people are getting exposure to being able to submit themselves, and as more and more people are able to work in voice acting and take a swing at it. Let's see. We can't really talk about this one. Sorry, I'm just going to drop a few questions. Are there any accents that you can't do no matter how hard you try? Ask Trixie Cat.
I have been asked to do an Australian accent a couple times, and I attempted one. I did my best try, and then I listened to it afterwards, and I was like, oh. Yeah. Oh man,
no, for me, there's one. For me, South African. Every time I try to do it, I listen back to myself, and I'm like, you just sound like someone who got lost. You just sound like somebody who was like on their way to Scotland and then got lost on their way to Australia and then got lost on their,
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. Like, I have accepted there are certain accents that I can really like, but it doesn't work with me, and that's okay. There are certain accents that are very easy for me to dip into, like Southern accents. I can slip into those very, very easily. I feel very comfortable in the Southern accent. So, there's certain ones that you just become more comfortable with, and that's
Absolutely.
what you should, stick with.
I think so. I think there's kind of maybe a portfolio of voices that feel more comfortable to you, and I'll tell you what, pretty much anytime I can slip into something that's a general Texas or Southern accent, to me is a little more comfortable, but that's just because there's a ton of films that I like to watch and a lot of characters that I really enjoy, and people in my own family that speak a certain type of way, so definitely think that you can sort of surround yourself with a sound and hear a certain manner of speaking with a lot of people that you will just pick up on. And I notice that when we travel to different parts of the world, I definitely have been picking up on people's accents, and you kind of give it back to them. I see you with the yeehaw.
Yeah.
There you go. But you know how it is. I think that people are innately able to adjust their speech to fit in. So if you go somewhere and everyone is speaking really, really quietly, you haven't, a predisposition to speak more quietly. If you're somewhere where everybody's just like, oh my God, like, oh my God, like, oh my God, like, oh my God, like, oh my God. You talk to them for 10 minutes and you're saying like, oh my God, like, oh my God. So I think it's the same kind of a thing, you know? Bloody Cheyenne, thank you for these cheers. Appreciate you. Oh, you're so sweet with your message. And Whack Tony, thank you for those cheers. I see Madam Devious is back for 36 months, which is 3 years in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, when in Rome, exactly.
And that girl Heidi, thank you for the gift sub to Desmond Lives. And Re3, thank you for cheering.
All right, this is a cool question from Lieutenant Lyrelia, who asks, what were some of your favorite voiced characters when growing up?
Oh, well, I loved, I think one of my favorite movies of all time is The Emperor's New Groove. And I was obsessed with that movie, and I watched it over and over and over again. Yzma and Krunk, oh my gosh, just next level. I was definitely hugely inspired by their performances. And yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, highly recommend. It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, as far as early voiced characters go, the Disney movies are pretty obvious, and, you know, the cartoons that we used to watch, but I'd be remiss to exclude Robin Williams specifically by name. I think the genie in Aladdin was like a breakthrough thing for me as a young person watching and being like, whoa, what's that? What are they doing there? So I think that's one that stuck out to me. I also really liked, I watched a lot of Captain Planet as a kid. So Captain Planet is a voice that's like in my mind. I watched a lot of Inspector Gadget. But you know, and a lot of those, maybe in my mind, like a lot of those ideas are like, you know, oh, a villain sounds like this. You know, it's very much like a Saturday morning cartoons kind of villain or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about you all? What are some characters or voice acted characters that stick out to you that make you interested in this category?
Here's a question from Kai Wright, who asks, what tips do you have for making yourself stand out? Well, Kai, I would say when I'm approaching an audition, a lot of the times I will have a series, maybe like 5 different lines, and it says these lines are going to be said independently from each other. They're not in sequence. So what I do is I make a choice about where I am in space for each of the lines, who I'm talking to, what the moment before was, and try and show as much of a range in these 5 lines as I can, where one is a very intimate line, where I'm talking to someone very much closer to me, physically in proximity. Another one where I'm talking to a big group of people and I'm trying to command as many people as possible. And then so really like figuring out where you are in space is a big one, and trying to make as many different kinds of choices in those 5 lines that you have, for example, so it doesn't sound like the same rhythm over and over and over again, because the casting directors are going to be listening to so many auditions for the same things. So trying to deconstruct the lines and find little moments, find little beats that could be hidden within this one sentence, to tell a story about this person, this character that you're creating, who they are in this world and what they want, what's very important to them. Because a lot of the times you really don't have much to go on. So you get to make the choice about who you want this character to be and who they are in this world.
Yeah, and you're building up the world, the imaginary world around the character. So Kai's question about differentiating your audition tape from another person's submission, for instance, is that you're trying to show different sides of this character. They call them sides when they hand you the script. These are the sides for the character. And when I started wrapping my mind around what Amelia's saying of, oh, well, if I do this first scene and this character is a dutiful son, right, who's wants to make his father the king proud, well, then you have one side of this character. But then when you have the obnoxious entitled prince who's dealing with his subjects, he's more of it has to do with his relationship to a different set of characters. You see 2 different sides of the character. It's the same voice, it's the same character, they still look the same, but in the first scene when they're reacting to, their parents and they're being this dutiful, responsible son, yes, father, of course I'll do this. compared to the next scene where it's the other side of the character. You know, how does that manifest in their behavior, and how does that manifest in their vocal, kind of quality? And the idea of like, oh man, there's so many good ideas. I'm just also, like reading a bunch of good questions out of the chat.
If you can find a moment to laugh in your auditions, like what does your character's laugh sound like?
That's what I was gonna throw out. Like fill in the scene a little bit, because sometimes it'll literally be like, here's 5 sentences, right? But there's totally room for one of those lines to have a break in between, or a sigh, or like, the equivalent of rolling your eyes, or picking up a heavy thing.
Like,
so,
okay, we're just around the bend.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this, that kind of a thing. So they can feel that you're moving something, that you're in the space.
You're fleshing out the world a little bit more, Hey, attendees, yes, saying time flies. Welcome back for 2 months. Appreciate the resub, friend.
Welcome back.
Thank you for being here. Bunch of good questions, and so many. Oh, man.
Oh, I see. Rogue Werewolf asks about favorite voice actor. Jennifer Hale. I admire her so much. Oh my gosh, she is just such an incredible person, and she blows my mind. I'm so inspired by her. I remember when we were playing Mass Effect, and then I was also playing Ratchet and Clank Rifts Apart at the same time. The fact that she was Shepard and Rivet was just, both characters were so fully fleshed out, so alive, and I admire her so much. So I think she's my favorite voice actor for sure. What about you? Who are your favorite voice actors? Femshep for sure, yes. Jennifer Hale, yeah. What about you, Bri? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, there's so many good ones to name favorites. I don't really like favorites, but I do see Yuri's name flowing through the chat. Yuri Lowenthal. I'm going to shout out real quick that Yuri has a book with Tara Platt.
His wife.
Yeah, and together they have written this book called Voice Over Voice Actor, the extended edition. It's available, I believe, it's available for free with Kindle Unlimited, I see on Amazon.
Nice.
Or you can get the hard copy of the book. I think they also do signings of them. You have that book and you're reading it right now.
Nice.
That's amazing. So that's a great book that's written by a friend, and would be a cool thing to check out. There are certainly courses about voice acting. There are certainly things that are just about voice acting in particular, or voiceover in particular, which maybe are more like skill-based things. But I really do think that without like a basic training in acting, that you could spend a long time getting technical about it and not really making anybody that excited about it without the kind of life of the character underneath. So I really feel like that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, a bunch of questions coming in. Here we have How do you find the voices for characters? Like, how can you look at a character and say, yeah, this voice fits them? Asks Angela Plays YouTube.
Well, sometimes you'll get a picture of what the character looks like, so you can see how they're holding themselves, what they're wearing, what their face looks like. Do they have a very large nose? Do they have a very small mouth? Do they have anything what distinguishes them? And when you have a picture of them, you can try different voices and see what feels like, what feels most natural for you and this character that you have a photo of, and just trying out different things. But if you don't have a picture, then for me, what I usually do is I play with a couple different tones, and then I will listen back to them and see which ones I like the most. But I would also say that finding what is your true voice, what is your bass voice, and starting from there, and then you can move the needle one way or another. You could bring it up in your tone, you can bring it down in your tone, but start from wherever is your natural place, and then shift from there.
I think that's a good instinct. I think also about fitting the voice to the character, you can think about where does the character lead from. And different parts of our anatomy, right, are similar. You might watch 10 people walking down the street, and you can see someone who's hunched forward and their forehead is leaning. Maybe they're buried in a book or they're looking on the ground for something. And it seems like all of the motion in their body is coming from their head. That's a very different character than a character who is leading from their hips, like an Elvis kind of character who's always, giving you that magical, what's the cat? What's the
Rum Tum Tugger.
Rum Tum Tugger, Rum Tum Tugger is always, he's always got it going on with the hips, and it's all about the hips. And then you have some characters who are, marching feet. It's all of their energy. They're being led from their feet and from their roots and from the base of them. So for me anyway, working on like Connor, the difference is that Blue Connor was very much a cerebral, in his head kind of entity. Green Connor is an emotional from his heart chakra entity, and Red Connor is this marching, mechanical root chakra energy. So for me, their voices had to make adjustments according to where that voice was coming from. If they're a very cerebral mental character, it might be a very different sound than somebody who is all about marching. These are so many good questions, team. If we didn't get to your question today, I apologize, and I really appreciate you submitting one.
I see a question from Piper Shaw, who asks, do you have any advice in general for shyness, being shy? Well, honestly, I have always been kind of a shy person. As a kid, I was crippled by shyness and insecurity, and as I've gotten older and become an actor and put myself out there more, I've had to confront that. But I would say that try and figure out what the root of your shyness is. Like, when are you feeling most shy? Are you what is it stemming from? And something that has helped me come out of my shell with newer people is that I don't need to be anybody else but myself. And if they don't like that person, that's fine, because there are plenty of people who will. And I spent a lot of time trying to be what I thought other people wanted me to be, and I learned that being my own true self is going to bring the people that I want to be around me, and that it's a journey, and to be your truest self, be your most authentic self, because when you're feeling like you're living your truth, then you're feeling the most confident. So it doesn't matter what other people think. And if they're thinking mean things, then they're not worth your time anyway.
Also, they're not thinking mean things because most of the time people aren't even thinking about us. The reality is we have this idea that the people in the room are thinking something about us, but how many times have you been sitting in a room looking at people going like, oh, I'm just looking at that person thinking a bad thing about them? You've never done that, but our brain tells us that other people are doing that to us, and I assure you, they're not.
High school is a weird place.
High school is a weird place, but listen, it has more to do with them than it does to do with you. I think that the best advice I have when it comes to shyness or feeling more comfortable in groups of people, and guys, I've always been a pretty, into high school and stuff going forward. I felt pretty confident and extroverted, and I like being around groups of people. But in this last year of being vaccinated and going back around people, I felt super awkward in small gatherings where I would normally feel very, very comfortable and confident. So it's a spectrum, like it ebbs and flows. You could be more comfortable and more confident some days and not the other days. But the thing that helps me, even a week ago when I'm somewhere with a group of people and I'm kind of feeling uncomfortable or my attention is on myself and I'm getting too worried, for me, the best advice is to put your attention, or to put my attention, on the other person. like good acting, good scene partner. Because if I'm in a room with people and I'm worried about what are they thinking about me, what am I doing, are my hands in the right place, am I wearing the right thing, am I doing something awkward or uncomfortable, it's definitely helps me to put my attention off of myself and onto them. And if you spend a little energy trying to make the other people in the room with you feel comfortable or relaxed, then you will, oh, wow, I'm comfortable and relaxed. I didn't realize I did that. But, your attention can be on other people, can be a really good way to let go of your attention being maybe like double down on yourself. Yeah, you want to have a little self-awareness, but I think you could definitely, I understand the rabbit hole of worry. There are so many good questions. I really appreciate them all. I wish we could get to all of them, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to poll what we're going to study next week, right?
Yeah. So friends, what are you curious about for next week's Curiosity Chill? Please type into the chat something that piques your interest and let us know what you would like to learn about next week.
And we'll pull it together. Appreciate you all being here. I want to reiterate one more time because a bunch of questions had to do with like getting a job in voice acting. And the simple truth is there is no blueprint. There is no best way to do it. My recommendation overall is get comfortable with your own voice. Practice on the equipment that you already have. Record something on your phone and watch it back and try it again. If you feel like you want to take an acting class or do a community theater play or make a film with your friends, I think that acting is acting is acting. And when it comes to hiring actors, Vishalia, there's not a blueprint for that either. No, you can reach out to them directly. You can reach out to casting offices that would then reach out to actors on your behalf. In some cases, you can reach out to the agents of the actors and make an offer to them or ask for actors to read scripts. But there is none of this is written in stone and happens the same way every time. Some projects are made entirely with a group of friends. They cast their friends. The game comes out. Some games are only made if they can convince that one actor to come back and reprise their role or something. So the reality is they're all gonna be coming to life in a totally different way. Nice. We got a lot of interesting ideas coming through for next Tuesday.
I'm seeing New Year's traditions around the world. I'm seeing Wales. I am seeing history of vaccines. I am seeing...
I like history of vaccines. Vaccines save people from diseases.
Yes, they
every time. Get boosted, team.
Butterflies.
Get your vaccines. Time travel. We did one on time travel, which I don't know. Is that one up on YouTube? If you guys want to check them out on YouTube, we do have every Thursday 3 past streams of Curiosity Chill are going up. It's not. I think that was a pretty confused, convoluted one, but screw it, if we want to bump that up in the order, if we still have that, we could totally do it. Let's see. Maybe one more option. Let's. You guys, anybody got one more thing that they would like us to check out?
Fire, the history of fire.
Fire? I mean...
Or parrots? Horses?
Fire? Parrots?
Horses?
I don't know what that is. MBTI. Oh, it's a personality test.
Oh, yeah, we could do a personality test.
We could do a personality test, sure.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I've never heard it said MBTI, but maybe that's just a specific kind of personality test.
Okay, so personality tests.
Personality tests. Okay. What do you think, team?
All right, type 1 in the chat if you'd like to learn about New Year's traditions around the world, 2 for Wales, 3 for the history of vaccines, or 4 for personality tests, which we could all take together.
Oh, I like that idea. Hey, Trixie Cat, welcome back for 6 months, and Lynn V, welcome back for 41. And Trixie Cat, thank you for the gift subgroup hug.
Thank you.
Incredibly generous of you. Very, very sweet.
Thank you, Brown.
Thank you for hanging out with us. And thank you, Queenie, for those double cheers. Appreciate you. Personality tests.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Very cool.
All right, friends. Well, if you have personality tests that you would like us all to take, then maybe
You can send them to
Yeah,
us.
send it to us either on, you can tag us on social media.
Send it to us by email.
Okay.
I don't want to keep track of a bunch of random tweets over the next week, so it is emaildechart@gmail.com. Let me go like this. I think it's like that. There it is.
Yeah.
Emaildechart@gmail.com. If there's a personality quiz or a test that you've taken online that you think would be fun for us to do on the stream, feel free to shoot me an email. Emaildechart@gmail.com is always available to you all. I cannot promise a fast response, but I will promise that I'll get it. Zeldriz, thank you for the gift sub to Momo Space. Appreciate you. All right, we have one more situation. We have to raid. Where are we going to raid?
What you in the mood for?
Amelia, what's a raid?
A raid is where we're all going to teleport together to another streamer's channel. And first we have to do a poll to see where you're in the mood to raid.
All right, we got a raid like this. Number 1, Christmas baking.
Oh.
Number 2, Christmas makeup.
Oh.
What's it gonna be? Is it gonna be number 1, Christmas baking? Is it gonna be number 2, Christmas makeup monster truck rally? I don't know, you guys. I don't know. The coffee just kicked in all right then. I actually wasn't awake until just now.
Coral the second, thank you so much for subscribing with your Prime.
Appreciate you being here, team.
It seems like it's going to be Christmas baking.
Christmas baking.
Give me the cookies.
Get hyped. New monster truck baking. Christmas baking wins the deal. And team, let me tell you what. We're going to have a bonus stream of, wait for it, Horizon Zero Dawn. It's coming for you today. We're going to be playing Horizon Zero Dawn at 2 p.m., which is in 3 hours, which is gonna be fun.
It's gonna be hype.
It's gonna be hype. Appreciate you. Amelia's addicted to this game.
I'm addicted. Actually, fun fact, after we finished streaming on Sunday for 4 hours, I went home and played 4 more hours.
Yeah, my baby went deep on this game,
I
team.
did.
She went full, like, unblinking for hours. Unblinking. So we're going to play more Horizon Zero Dawn. We'll do some of the side quests and some general exploring and stuff. We'll save the main quest for our Sunday streams. We are playing that every Sunday at noon or 1 hour later than whatever time it is for you right now. Curiosity Chill is awesome for Tuesdays. And on Friday, we're going to be announcing some new things about our Free Space Friday streams and what's going to become of them in 2022.
Yeah, what we're doing in the New Year's.
What we're doing in the New Year's. And we got to say thank you to our awesome mod teams. Thank you, moderators.
Yes, thank you for
And
pulling
thank
those
you,
questions. We appreciate
lieutenants.
ya.
And thank you, everybody, for sharing your questions with us. We super appreciate you being here. And thank you also one more time to the good old Dechart Lester who drops those heels in the chat. We love our new emote, and we will use it during today's Curiosity Chill? No, during our Horizon Zero Dawn bonus stream in just a little bit, so that you all can help my wife remember to heal while in combat. Next Tuesday is your birthday? Well, that'll be awesome. We're going to be checking it out next Tuesday when we are doing our Curiosity Chill.
Personality tests.
Yeah, I'm going to put it up here now so I don't forget. Personality tests. With a Z and an S. There we go. Done. All right, it's time for a raid. 3, 2, 1, raid!